This is a live look at Clinton this afternoon right now. The rain clearly coming down pretty heavily here as we are tracking Helene and the effects that are happening here locally. I actually talked with a couple of businesses during the time our meteorologists were still in our continuous coverage. A couple of restaurants saying they're safe, but it was really loud when that rain was coming down.
Yeah, it's really been the last 2 to 3 hours where here in our area, we've really been feeling the effects of Helene when that rain finally pushed in. Meanwhile, Western North Carolina has seen so much rain. Let's go back to Sean Gallagher, who's been there live in Asheville for us to show us another flooded area there behind you, Sean.
Yeah, guys, this has been one of the hardest hit areas right here. You can see there are giant things that are flooding down here in Biltmore Village. We have seen so many large objects that have just been swept away. I'm talking, giant propane tanks, and we've seen garbage dumpsters, and whatever that may be, it's a very large trailer of some sort. But, for the majority of the day, it's just been news crews, first responders, and police. But we're starting to get a number of people out here now that there's no rain to really check some things out. I just ran into Sean and Kelsey, who are neighbors. And Sean, what made you want to come out and see this?
Well, I work maintenance for a couple of properties around here, and that's what brought me out to see if I'm going to be able to make it into work later today or tomorrow, and just to see how I can assist with what comes up.
Yeah, and Kelsey, for you, when you got out here and you got eyes on this, what went through your head?
Just devastating. I've seen it flooded before, but nothing like this ever. I just wonder, when it's going to be back to normal, really. The railroad just went through what was that? A railroad car. Just took out a crossing about 30 seconds ago and just floated on down. So
how does that make you feel, knowing, the neighborhood that you live, and this is what it looks like?
I drive through here 4 days a week, and it's just devastating to see it be like this for sure. I was definitely expecting flooding, but nothing like this. Yeah. And so
Sean,
definitely devastating.
Sean, for you, when you see this, seeing how high it is, up to almost the awnings of that restaurant down there, yeah. How do you recover from this?
Well, I grew up in a time where it was community. So, the more that anybody can help, the better off we'll be. Yeah. Just good neighbors, good friends, and just good people to help everybody recover from this. Yeah. That's all you can hope for.
Yeah. And what kind of, I know you guys are a few miles up the road, but have you had any sort of destruction, flooding, anything?
A lot of trees came down in the complex where I live, and driving up and down Hendersonville Road. With the people I work with, we've been sending texts talking about what we have to deal with when we come into work tomorrow, over the weekend, or come Monday. And trying to devise a game plan on what we have to deal with at that level.
And Kelsey, I know Sean mentioned, the resiliency of this community. Do you have faith that this community is going to band together in this tough time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Asheville. Yeah, absolutely. Asheville's a good town, and everybody is seeing the damage, and I feel like we're all going to work together to get it back right for sure. Yeah, that's great. I think it's just a matter of time until this water goes down, because as far as trees goes, I think everybody will help clean all that up, but the water is just going to have to make its way down.
That's great. Well, thank you guys for sharing some time with me. I really appreciate it. And I will say, of all the people that are out here, everybody is dealing with, their own issues right now. But there are some smiles when, you get these moments of break where you see these large objects going down the river. It's a moment to, reflect and actually, take this in as, what it is, a very historic day with, the record levels of flooding here. And, it's been a very busy morning as well. We've been out here all morning, but so have the fire crews and police that are responding to calls. Fire crews here just in Asheville say they've had 6 water rescues, and then they've had reports of 11 down trees on homes and 18 down on power lines. And again, that's just Asheville. That's not the entire area. And this is really Buncombe County, Western North Carolina, pretty much the whole state that's being affected by this. Sean Gallagher, WRAL News in Biltmore Village.
And Sean, before you leave, because I've been to the Biltmore Village before, that area, tourism, so important to them. And like you mentioned, people right now trying to find some positivity with it. That's one thing, I don't know, I just feel like it's important to mention. But
I think I may have lost you guys. I don't hear anything. I'm sorry.
Okay, it looks like we may have lost them there. But you can clearly see the road there, just all those objects floating across the,
that was very
almost a river, it's a street.
To see large objects, boxes and containers and things just floating down there, and also to see people driving through that water. You do not want to see that. All right.
I think we have a report in the live center right now. We've got Michelle there. Michelle, what do you have in there?
Yeah, I want to show you a massive tree down in Garner. This is on Vandora Springs Road near Tiffany Circle. You can see Duke Energy out there, firefighters out there working to get this tree cleared off the road. Looks like it almost took some power lines down, but thankfully it did not. Again, this is Vandora Springs Road and Tiffany Circle. I checked Duke Energy's map just to see if there were any power outages affected by this. It doesn't look like there are too many. They were maybe 3 or 4 in that Vandora Springs area.
All right, Michelle, thank you. About an hour ago, Governor Roy Cooper held a press briefing updating the state's response to the deteriorating conditions here in North Carolina. Emergency response teams, he said, have conducted more than 100 swiftwater rescues already. Additional teams are coming to help from other states. And the governor also said that floods will continue to rise through at least Saturday.
With the rain that they had already been experiencing before Helene's arrival, this is one of the worst storms in modern history for parts of western North Carolina. The end of the rain is not the end of the threat.
And State Emergency Management Director William Ray said cell service is failing in some areas of western North Carolina. He said 911 calls are being rerouted to other call centers while they work on bringing in equipment to bolster service.
And we've heard first responders say before that can be a problem, right? You have people who want to call, but you have the cell services down, so that's obviously an issue. North Carolina has actually seen hundreds of thousands of power outages today, and we spoke with Duke Energy spokesperson Jeff Brooks about the response for this.
Safety is our first priority, and our goal is to get everybody back home at the end of the day after working in really challenging conditions. So when winds get above 29 miles per hour, we really can't raise the buckets into the air to be able to do that overhead work. And so there are sometimes some stand downs for that reason. We can do some things, but right now, in much of the area that's impacted, the winds are still just too high to be able to get out. It'll probably be this afternoon before we see a lot of large scale work in those areas. And, obviously we have to put that safety of our crews first. They are working with high voltage electricity. They are working in high winds. And that's just something that we have to be extra careful about.
And when we were interviewing him today, he also mentioned more than 1 million people without power right now in North Carolina. So that's significant.
And of course, those crews are on standby, but they can only get back to work restoring power when the conditions are appropriate for that. We have teams spread across the state covering the impacts of Helene. Our team coverage continues. Kat.
And, we're just getting reports in of a tree down in Cary that could lead to some additional power issues. The worst of the storm over, though, in Cary and Raleigh, but not for our entire viewing area. The threat for tornadoes and flooding continues. I'll let you know when the threats end coming up.
We continue to track the powerful effects of this storm as a tree fell on an apartment building here in Raleigh.
And we could see more of that later today. Kelsey Coffey joining us live from the scene. And Kelsey, you've been there much of the morning, and finally there's some cleanup happening there.
Renee, crews were able to leave a couple of hours ago when the rain really started to pick up. So we'll show you now what's left of that damage. Blue tarp is still here on the roof, and you can still see that siding hanging a little bit there. But we'll take you to some video now from earlier this morning so you can see that massive down tree. The tree sat at the apartment building for hours before crews were able to clean it up. So these apartments are on Steinbeck Drive. This is less than 2 minutes away from Wake Forest Road. Crews arrived this morning around 8 to survey all the damage, and the wind was so strong today that they had to use a limb from the tree to hold down some caution tape that they had surrounding it, just to make sure that neighbors here are safe. We spoke with a woman who lives here about the moment she heard the tree hit the ground.
I was on the phone with my friend and I heard the loud noise. I was completely shocked because we've never experienced that normally here.
And just as far as current conditions right now, we're not experiencing any heavy rain, but about 15 minutes ago, we had a really heavy downpour. That neighbor that we just spoke to there says that she's just thankful that everyone is safe and folks are able to safely get back into their apartment. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News, live in Raleigh.
I can't help but think about something Chris Michaels was talking about before, about how the rainfall we had seen. We already saw some earlier in the week, but then now we see this. The ground is already saturated, right? That makes it, unfortunately, a good condition for trees to come down. down, which we saw right there. But as you mentioned, not even just at that apartment building, other places, this is a real concern for today.
Well, the continued rain, the flooding that we're going to see and seeing as a result of the saturated ground, but then also the tornado warnings, back-to-back tornado warnings that we saw throughout the morning. And hopefully, we'll see what happens in the early afternoon hours. But we are not done with this storm yet. Coming up in our next half hour, we will be talking with Governor Cooper live here. So stay tuned for that. First, we're going to go over to the Live Center with Michelle McConaughey.
Yeah, I have some more crazy pictures to show you here in the Live Center. This is the backyard of a home in Durham. Take a look at this. This is on Tahoe Drive. You can see just how much water. I mean, it looks like their shed in the backyard has kind of toppled over because of how much water. Look at the fence, the lining of the fence. It is just insane. And then you look here, this is Bridgeport Court. You can see again here a lot of flooding. So Durham really dealing with a lot of flooding from Helene. And then you have this shot of a neighborhood. I mean, this is water that you absolutely do not want to drive through. They have kept saying all morning long, do not be outside, do not drive on the roads if you do not have to. And this is exactly why.
And the worst is coming to an end here in Wake County. That's the good news, but we're not in the clear yet for our entire viewing area. Oh, and a new tornado warning was just issued. So we're going to be on the air with you right now. This tornado warning expires at 1 p.m. So we will be on the air with you, keeping you safe for the next half hour as we continue to watch this rotation that's going to be headed for the west side of town in Goldsboro. The new tornado warning does include the western part here of Wayne County and eastern Johnston County. This is just east of Smithfield, just a small sliver of the highway included nearby in Smithfield. So let me clear off the flash flood warnings. I want to make this map really clear for you so it's really easy to see the areas that are most at risk. This tornado warning includes Johnston County, the eastern part of the county, and western Wayne County. And between Smithfield and Goldsboro is the area that's really in the most danger right now. Let's get a look inside the storm. We're going to take a look at the velocities. This is where we look for the reds and the greens coming together. It doesn't look like the tightest rotation that we've seen today, not the most concerning. However, it's strengthening. And if that trend continues and the rotation really starts to tighten up, that's when we can see these quick tornadoes touch down, unfortunately. I am going to switch. This is getting really close to our dual pole radar that we have here in Wake County. We have it on dual pole mode so we can get a pretty close scan inside the storm here using our dual pole radar. And there you go. This gives us actually probably a better view of where the rotation is right now. I'm going to circle where we've got the rotation in this blue circle right in here. That is the concern right on the Wayne County and Johnston County line. And there is some lightning ramping up inside the cell, and that's sometimes a sign that we are starting to see the rotation strengthen or come together. So let me clear that off the map here. I want to track this storm. Princeton, you are in immediate danger from this rotating storm that's headed your way associated with the tropical system. So here's where we've got the rotation right now. Princeton, this is headed right in your direction. If you live in the Princeton community, it is very important that you are seeking shelter in the lowest level of your home and the most interior room. Let's go street level here because Princeton is a pretty populated area that we have this rotation tracking toward. This is going to be headed right up, basically paralleling Macy Holt Road in the Princeton community on the south side of town, coming close to Progressive Church Road. Woodard Road, you still need to be in your safe spot. You're still kind of on the western periphery of where we've got the rotation right now. But the way that this storm cell is moving, it's going to be headed directly for Princeton. I do want to put a storm track on this cell for you. It does appear to be moving at a decent speed here. It's moving to the north right now at 40 miles per hour. So it is fairly close, just north of Mount Olive, about 10 miles north of Mount Olive. So the threat's moving away from you if you live in Mount Olive. I know we have a lot of loyal viewers that live there in Mount Olive that we often connect with. So good news for you folks there. Princeton, the arrival time is 7 minutes from now. You just have about 5 minutes to grab your children, grab your pets, head to your safe place, and really seek shelter. take your phone with you, bring the WRAL News app. You can turn on our coverage with you if you lose power, or if you're just, far enough away where you can't hear your TV from the other room. That's how we can keep you up to date. The Lucama community, 1258. So that's going to be about 28 minutes from now. If you live in Lucama, you've got time to seek shelter. And if you live in Wilson, especially on the west side of town, you're not under the warning right now, but it's a very populated area. We want to let you know you need to really pay close attention to this storm cell. So what we're seeing right now, let me pull up product that we have here on our dual pole radar. It's called the shear rate, and this pretty simply shows us where we've got the greatest rotation, and that shows what we were showing you with the velocity. It's right in this area. It's going to be headed due north toward the Princeton community, and if we zoom in here, we can get a better idea of some of the roads in the eastern part of the warning, and that does include that includes Wayne County here. So let's zoom in. Oakland Church Road, Ebenezer Church Road. We mentioned Macy Holt Road earlier. Caps Bridge Road, you are under the threat here. Princeton, Gurley's Mill Road, a main road there in town. That's one of the areas that's at risk right now. So these are just some of the communities that we're concerned about. Highway 70 crossing over there in Princeton over into Wayne County. Those are some of the areas that are going to be impacted first as the storm continues to track to the north. Pike Crossroads, Holland, Micro, Hickory Crossroads, those are all areas that need to be on alert right now as this tornado warned storm will be tracking your direction. We just got a new scan in on the dual Doppler 5000 radar, so let's take a look inside the scan. I want to pull up some of the numbers as it approaches Princeton right now for how strong the winds are inside the storm. 38-mile-an-hour winds, not as strong for the winds that are moving away from the radar site right now, so this is kind of how it works out. These are the winds that are moving toward the radar site, since our radar site is right there on the border of Wake and Johnston County, and then these are the winds that are moving away. So that's where you get that little bit of counterclockwise rotation, and that's what we never want to see. And notice the lightning that you're seeing there as well. We'll watch to see if that ramps up anymore, but there have been some lightning bolts in that cell as well. Right now, we are watching this rotating cell. There is nothing else that looks particularly concerning on the map. I think the worst of the tornado threat is over now if you live in Wake County, which is certainly good news. And if we look at this cell in particular, long range, I'm going to put a long storm track on it just to give folks ample time in case it were to hold together. It's moving to the north at 40 miles per hour. Let's go ahead and put a storm track out for a full hour, though, so you can get a good idea of some of the areas that could be impacted in the long term here. We're going to go up one here. Okay, the Bailey community, 108. We mentioned Lucama earlier, 1257. Finch Mill, 109. Brentwood Forest, 110. Merrimont, 110. And Newton Park, 111, as well as White Fox. Those are some of the communities that will be in danger. Wilson as well. We're going to have to keep an eye out for this storm to potentially cross close to the west side of town there in Wilson. And I'm adjusting the storm track here to try to get the folks in Wilson a little better idea of the timing. It looks like it would be closer to about 110 that you could see some impacts, and that would mainly be on the west side of town in Wilson. This is our only tornado warning that we have in effect right now. It is on the border of Johnston County as well as Wayne County, moving north. Wake County, I'm going to move the tornado warning box. You just have a little bit of rain left to go, but the worst of this is ending in Wake County. I wouldn't be surprised by 1 o'clock if the National Weather Service was able to clear you from the tornado watch in Wake County. You could see this is basically all that we have left. It's not very potent anymore, so we should be able to give more counties the all clear here very soon. Unfortunately, the focus right now is on this tornado warned cell that we have in Johnston County and Wayne County that we're continuing to monitor. I want to take a quick pause from this coverage. This is an important update to tell you about in the North Carolina mountains right now. Take a look at Boone. The camera has